So today we're going to talk about the idea that you have to be a Christian, you have to accept Jesus before you get to heaven. I'm Catholic. The Catholic Church has a theory of invincible ignorance, but otherwise it seems like they look to the works of Aquinas, and they too act like, if you had a chance to know Jesus. I don't want to speak for Aquinas, so I'm not going to speak for the Catholic Church here. I'm going to say that I see a lot of Protestants on the net. I saw Cliff say something, Cliff Nuchtl once say he wasn't sure, but I see a lot of Protestants acting like they're sure. And I look for support for that in the Bible, and I don't see it. I don't know where you can go through the Bible and say, this absolutely means that if you don't accept Jesus, you're going to hell. And I know this bothers, like if you saw Wes Huff on the podcast with those four guys. One's a comedian who I think he said was Buddhist. And then there was one of the comedians there, I don't know their name. He seemed like he understood Christian. I don't know that he is Christian, but he asked good Christian questions. And Wes's response was, well, it's not that Jesus is saying you go to hell. It's we're all going to hell. We're all sinners. We're not good enough on our own. But Jesus is saying it. God is saying, if you know my son, if you know Jesus, if you believe in me, you can spend eternity with me. But if you don't want me, you don't want to be with me, that's okay. That's your choice. And that was good, but it wasn't totally satisfactory. I want to know who can prove out of the Bible, because that's where Protestants go, that you have to know Jesus while you're alive. Otherwise, you got no chance. Because the passages I find could be taken that way, but it's not automatic. And then there are other passages in the Bible that challenge that idea. And this is one of them, the sheep and the goats. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, all the angels will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right, come, like the thief on the cross, come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. I'm pretty sure that would be heaven. We can do further research. You can tell me while I'm wrong in the comments. I'll take the video down if it's completely wrong, or I'll address a new one, because I'm just going with the Bible here. I'm not saying I'm a theologian or an expert. It is something I've investigated a long time. I look at it as an attorney. I find a lot of covenants and contracts and promises and think if I act on them and Jesus promises eternal life, I can do that because that's how my mind's trained. And here I'm looking for proof one way or the other that you're going to heaven or you're not. And this passage seems to challenge the idea. For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him. These will be the people on the right, presumably. Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothing and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? And the king will reply, truly, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. And then he will say to those on his left, depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison and you did not look after me. They will also answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or needing clothes or sick or in prison and did not help you? He replied, truly I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me. Then they will go away to eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life. So this seems like acting in love, doing things in love can get you into heaven. Now, I don't know any reason why you can't read this and take that from this passage. So I don't think, as I read the Bible, I think God gives lots of ways to get to heaven. I don't think he's just saying they're all through him. There's no one gets to the Father but through Jesus. But there's lots of ways to do it. He makes promises of eternal life. He's got the Sermon on the Mount, subjectively very hard, similar to this one. We've got to feed the hungry. And I was hoping on the next page, like some of the toughest teachings for me in the Bible are always filed with a familiar the disciples, like after even the bread of life sermon, where we see Jesus say, "Gnaw on my flesh, and you will have eternal life." The one I believe, I feel it in church. I feel like I have the Creator in me, and because I believe it, which is very difficult. The interesting thing is, if you believe, you've got eternal life. And then we've got Corinthians saying, if you don't discern the body and blood, you're drinking damnation on yourself. So the Jews walked away, and he lost the disciples, and they asked him, "What are you going to?" There's usually like, God, this is a tough Jesus is a tough teaching, and then Jesus explains, for man it's impossible, but for me all things are possible. That doesn't follow this one. This is just straight up a tough teaching, but here people are going to get the place prepared since the beginning of time, the kingdom, and they didn't even know Jesus. So I don't understand how anybody, the existence of this passage alone should cause doubt in everybody who's telling others they have to know Jesus while he's alive. This passage seems to run absolutely contrary to that statement. I'm not saying I've interpreted it right, but I'm not saying anyone can tell me that it's wrong. It's a possibility that this passage is telling you, you better act in love, do charity, visit the sick, visit the people in prison, clothe people. So I pray. I think the purpose of my channel is going to be to point out that we should be coming together in communion, that the church and the Protestant churches, and I understand they're working, and there's ways to unite, particularly the Orthodox and the Catholic Church. We've got to get together. I mean, we've got evidence that Peter was primary, but maybe he doesn't have all the powers for the Pope outside among the Orthodox Church, but maybe they can put him in the lead and we can work this out. Maybe he's a Pope for Catholics, but the leader of the other churches to some degree that they want. But, the idea that there's only one way to view these passages and come up with one answer, it's not useful, and I don't think it's correct. But again, I'm saying I think. I'm not a theologian. Counsel me if I'm wrong in the comments, and I'll take it down or make a new one. Thanks. My name is John McConnon, and this is a new channel that I've made on YouTube called Communion. Thank you.